Alright, so now that I've got my game more or less able to lose and win, I guess we'll say, right? Ooh, okay, so what I want to do is basically add some a way to pick up stuff, okay, and a way of also knowing that we're picking stuff up. So looks like, okay, so we already made the player pickup, and right now if let's open that one up again. See, it went over here. All right, so we already made this pickup script, and right now I have it. Okay, cool, thanks. I have it set up to do these things, but you can see we didn't actually put anything in these ones yet. We only have it set up for the finish, which is just going to call the game controller script. So let's also open up the player stats script. Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I just want to make it so that my player can have lives, and we can pick those up, and then we can also see them. Okay. So let's set up the lives thing first. So let me see. What did I name it here? I said life item is what I was going to name it. Okay. So we'll call it life item. Actually, well, I think life just makes sense. Like you pick up a life. I was going to say life. Okay. So we're going to say life. Let's say that. Control S. All right. So I'm going to go back here. And I'm just going to go ahead and make some lives. Okay, so I'm just going to go create, just because I need to have something to interact with. 2D object, make it a sprite, and we'll just call it, life. All right, let's give it a sprite, and I'm just going to give it a knob for right now. And I'm going to zero out all of the transforms here to make sure that I can see it. I'm going to go over here, hit W. And I'm going to put it down here, and I'm just going to hit R for scale and scale it up a little bit. That's probably big enough. And I'm just going to go ahead and make it like a pinkish color. Good. Okay, so now I know that's a life. And besides that, if you look, what it's going to look for over here is the tag is life. So I'm just got to make sure that on this life, it's not looking for the name life, it's looking for a tag life. And if you look, there's none. So let's add a tag. We're going to go ahead and just name it life. All right, make sure it's exactly the same name. And I gotta go ahead to pause it for a second. The dog was barking at the wall. Must have said something he didn't like. Okay, so what was I doing? So I need to make sure it's exactly the same as this, right? So I'll go over here, and we made the tag. We actually have to come back to it and then actually apply it. It doesn't actually apply it once you do it. So now we've got that. We got that. And the other thing is, if you look, it's when this trigger gets, remember too, this is going to be on the player pickup, it's going to read the collider of the object that it hits. So this life actually needs to have a collider on it. So add component, and I'm just going to start writing box collider 2D. I'm just going to go ahead and make it a trigger to make sure it's like clicked through. Good. And now what I'm going to do is, for now, we'll fix this later, I'm just going to duplicate it and just put a couple of them on here, right? So I'll just go like this. So that way there's 3 of them. So I just Control D or Command D, depending on your system. Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3. That's great. So now I got all these lives that now I can interact with. Okay. So currently we have this that when it runs into life, it's going to do something. What I want it to do is to actually interact with the player stats script. And, you know, so basically the same thing that we're doing here where, sorry, not here. Same thing we're doing here. I have to basically make a variable that's going to hold the player stat script and then find the player stat script and then apply it. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and make another variable up here. Let's go ahead and make it public, and we'll call it player stats script. That's the type it's going to be, and I'm just going to name it that too because that's easier. Stats script. Semicolon. Okay, so that's the variable, and then we're going to have to find it here. Let me make this bigger. Now, I don't have to actually find the game object, because if we look at my game here, you can see it's actually in the same thing here, and the player stat script is on the parent. So this player pickup script's right here. So I can just say get component in parent, because it's parented to player. I don't have to do the game object find like I had to with the other one. So we're just going to go ahead and go like this. And we're just going to do player stat script, and we're going to give it the value of get component, and the component we want to get is, I'm sorry, get component in parent, my bad. Get component in parent, and then we want to get the player stats script. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so basically it's going to get the component that's in the parent, and that player stat script is right inside the parent object. So that is good. So so now we have access to it. So now whenever I use this, it's the same as using the stat script in the player. Okay, so we're going to go down here to life, and we're just going to do this. We're going to say player stats script dot lives. Okay, like that. Now what that's going to do is it's going to say, okay, go to player stat script and run the lives function, right? In this case, it's a method because it's inside of it. So here's lives, and it's public, which is good. But notice it's looking for an int. And if you remember the way that we did it before, is every time we die, it sends it a -1. This way, I actually want to give it a life, so I'm going to send it a +1, right? That's going to go into this variable, this hang on a second, this argument in here, right? So I have to give this a parameter. And we're just going to do 1. We're just going to send it the value of 1. Now, this will work. So let's go ahead and do that. So save that. Let me see. This is a player pickup script. Go to the player stats script. And then in here, you just want to... So that's going to go ahead and it's going to give it 1. Right now, we have something set up that if it gives us a -1, it's going to do that, which doesn't really... That's good for someone, you know, we lose a life. But I need to set something up besides this. All this is doing is actually setting it up that if we were to die, it's just going to reset us. That doesn't actually do anything with lives or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and make a variable to hold lives. Okay, so we'll make it public. We're going to make it public because that way we can change if we want. It's going to be an int because it's whole number. And we'll just call it player lives. And I'm going to give it an initial value of 3. Okay, so, but we can, because it's public, I can change it in the inspector. All right, so in public in player lives, blah blah blah. That's great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to underneath here, and this is going to be kind of relatively simple. We're going to say player lives is going to be, what I want it to be is that whatever player lives was, I want it to be that plus whatever gets sent to us. Okay, so you could do this. We could do player lives equals player lives plus life. Okay, like that. Because what it would do is that, let's say this gets called, and if it gives it a -1, like we just died, if my player lives was 3, it's going to be equal to 3 minus, plus a -1, which would be -1. So then player lives will end up being 2. If I send it a 1, it'll do the same thing. It'll be player lives equals player lives, which was 3, and then add 1. A quicker way of kind of writing that is just to do this. You just do plus equals life. That's the same thing as saying player lives plus that. Okay. So now player lives becomes that, and then the other thing I want to do, just so that I can tell that it's working, is I'm just going to do a debug.log, so it writes to the screen how many player lives we currently have. Oops, don't put it in quotes because we don't want to write player lives. We want it to write whatever the current lives are. Player lives, semicolon. Okay, so it'll call this, it'll run that. Let's go ahead and save that. Go here. Let's see if we run into any issues. Console. Okay, I'm just going to clear that out. I'll hit play, and we're going to look to see if player live shows up down there. Okay, let's see, and good. So now it says 4 because we started with 3. All right, so there's 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so now you might have noticed there's another problem here where it's still sitting there. So the other thing we got to do is we got to destroy the object. So that's pretty easy code. Go to go here and in the pickup script, make sure you always say Control S. I obviously did because it worked. But so if it's life, I also want to go ahead and do destroy, and I want to destroy the col dot game object. Okay, and I put a semicolon. So destroy is just a pre-made method that's inside of Unity C# language. And then the object, it's got the collider here, but I don't want to delete. If I just do destroy and I just said col, it's going to delete the collider on the object, but it won't actually delete the object itself. So I have to do collider.game object. So I actually want to delete the game object itself. So that will actually destroy it every time I hit it. So I'll go ahead and save that. Now, that's all fine and dandy, and that works pretty okay. But the only thing that kind of stinks about it is, you know, I could see it here when I'm playing the game. Come on. I can see it in the console here. There we go. Come on. There we go. I can see in the console like 4. See, they go away now. And 5 and 6, and then watch. If I go like this, see it goes down to 5, right? So if I die, I'll lose lives too. But the player, when they actually play the game, they won't see this, right? So I need to have some sort of interface that they can see and respond to. So to do that, we're going to add just a real basic UI just to give response to the player. Okay, so I want you're just going to go to game object UI and just do text. Now it's automatically going to create this canvas element, and canvas is just like a stretchy thing that fits over it. So no matter how you scale the screen, it will basically allow you to pin an item to the top left corner, top right, bottom left, middle. It allows you to kind of pin it to the paper. So no matter how, imagine it's like a rubber sheet of paper, no matter how you stretch it, it'll always kind of stick to that corner. Before, the way it used to work is that it was just an image that laid over top. But what would happen is, like, let's say this was my screen and I had something right here, right? Well, let's say I'm playing a phone game and it's more of a vertical style game. If I went like this, well, now it would be over here. It'd be off screen. So this, though, what it would do is it would pin to this corner. It would always be, let's say, 50 pixels from the left. And if I went like this, it would still be 50 pixels from the left. It's just going to move with the screen. So that's why Canvas is really nice. But what we have is a text component. Now, you might notice, you may or may not notice this, but if you look, it looks gigantic. It's actually not gigantic. It's just because each one of these units is representing a certain number of pixels. And so it looks like it's really huge, but that's because these are the pixels. So what we're going to do is click on game, the game view instead. That's actually where I want to see. And if it doesn't show up, just go to view, or sorry, window. Where are you at? Where is it? I don't know. It's got to be in there somewhere. But anyway, so there it is. Yay. Okay, so I have text. Just go ahead and let's call it score text. Okay. Score text. All right. So this is going to be my text that holds the score, and I zoomed in a little bit, so I'm just gonna. There we go. If you accidentally don't see things, just take the scale back. You can do it accidentally by using your wheelie, which is what I did. Okay. So I'll call score text, and on the text I'm going to call it score right here, comma, boom, and we'll give it. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not going to call it score text. Let's call it life text. All right, because I'm going to do lives. But score would work exactly the same way as we're setting up this life thing. Okay, so we'll call this lives space, and then just do 0-3, or not 0-3, just use 3. Okay, because that's how many lives we're going to start with. And you can choose the font here. We'll deal with that later. Let's do bold, and let's change the size to, let's say, 36. Okay. Now you're like, oh no, it doesn't show up. What happened? If I go smaller, I can see it, but when I go to a certain size, it's no longer visible. The reason why is it's actually like a bounding box. So if you're familiar with web design or other programs, you see this width and height. This is the size that it can reside in. See how the height's 30? So I need to go to a larger number. So let's try, usually I do like 50. 50 is enough, okay? But it could also be width, so you can extend the width too if you need to. But I think that's probably fine. So we'll do 150 by 50 for width and height. But you might need to play around with these depending on how large you decide to make this. Okay. Now, you'll see that there's also these position things, and these will work, but you don't want to use these quite yet. I'm actually going to zero these out. And you can see it's going to put it right at the center. If you click on this, you'll see up here it says Shift, also set pivot, Alt also set position. So what I want you to do is you'll hold Alt and Shift, and you're going to see the thing changes. And what it's going to do is it's going to snap it and make the pivot of it, meaning where it's going to be pinned to in wherever you click on any one of these parts. Okay, and I'm going to click on the top left. That just makes sense. And now over here, I'm going to do position. I'll do 50, and then Y will do minus 50. Good. Okay, so now it's over here, but it's 50 from the left and the top. All right, and that looks acceptable. Now you can change the colors if you want, all that other jazz. I'm actually going to go to my main camera here because I don't like this dark blue. It's going to brighten up my day here. There we go. That's prettier. Okay, I'm going to say what I got too. Yeah, we'll see what we got. All right, so that's looking okay. But right now, this isn't actually doing anything. Like nothing's interacting with this in any sort of way. Okay, so if we want to interact with this, we're going to need to add that to the player stat script. So player stat script. Oops. Okay, player stat script. Okay, so just like we did with other things, we need to make a variable that's going to hold it. But even before we do this, actually, I'll do it first so you can see, because that'll probably help. So we're going to call this, what I want to interact with is text, and then we're going to call it LifeText. LifeText, boom. Okay, so you see it automatically switched to text alignment. Let's get rid of that, like that. And oh, it's red. That's really weird, right? Like obviously it's not understanding that that's a type. The reason why is that if you look at the very top here, you see it says using system collections, generic. That's just C# stuff. Then it says using Unity Engine. Well, you also have to add up here using Unity, because these are libraries that we're bringing in. So these are like the language that's already pre-built. So we have to do using Unity Engine .ui, like a sub one, oops, semicolon. And then you're going to see it's going to go away. For whatever reason, they changed the UI like a couple years ago. And so when they did that, it's kind of, I don't want to call it a plugin, but it's like another class you have to bring in. So if you don't put that up top, then it's dumb and it doesn't work. So anyway, good. So now we got text, LifeText. And then what we need to do is basically find that and store it in here. Okay, so we're going to do that right in start. So we're going to do LifeText is equal to, and it's going to be a lot like when we did the to have to find the game object. Because if you look, the player stat script, which is on this, has no association with this, right? Like it's not parented to it, it's not a child of it. So I'm going to have to find this object by name. But there's only going to be one of these, so it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to do this, and it's going to be game object. All right, so it's like a function that we're going to use, and then a sub, or an object we're going to use, and then a sub method of it. So I'm going to find, and what we're going to look for is the name of the game object. So this was, I think we called it, not score text, sorry. We called it LifeText. Okay, and I just want to double check that I actually indeed, okay, good, LifeText. Okay, keep doing that. Okay, LifeText. Dot get component, because I don't want the LifeText object, I want a component in it. So we're going to get component, and the component I want to get is going to be of the type text. Okay, so just again, to really drive this home, here's the LifeText. This is the object, this whole big thing. But if you look, it's got different components. It's got this rect transform, this canvas render, and the text. Because this is what I want to change, is the text component of it. Okay, so dot tag, or get component, and then text, quotes, and boom. Okay, so now it's gonna store the text component into this LifeText, and now whenever I use this, it's gonna be the same as that. All right, so what we need to do now is basically fix that up. So it's going to be after this. And we can get rid of this debug because we're going to actually have UI that will do this now. So after this, we're just going to say LifeText dot text. Okay. So you might be like, oh, but I thought we had text. If you look at this, this is the component, but this component has text in it. It has character in it and font. So it'd probably be like, if we wanted to get to this character and font, it'd probably be like text dot character dot font. You know what I mean? So, because these are like sub ones, just like if we went to here I have to do position dot x and position dot y. So anyway, yeah. So dot text. I want to change the actual text, and the text is going to be equal to lives. Let's do a capital lives, comma space, and then we're going to do what's called a concatenation, which means it's combining two words together, and it's going to be that, and then it's going to be player lives. Okay. So basically, it's going to write to that the number of lives that we have. So yay. Okay. And then save it. Go back here. Clear out this. Hopefully there's no bugs. Come on. Play. And hopefully, this should still say at 3, but hopefully this will turn to a 4. Yay, 4. And if I die, oh, went back down to 4. Back down to 3. Alright, my character's suicidal. Alright, let's jump. And jump. Yay! Okay, so then we win and we die. Alright. Just like real life. Alright, so I think that's all I want to do. So the other thing we could do to add to this, I'm not going to do it on here because it's literally the same thing we've already done, is basically right here, you'll see that we just did, so we did this one, this finish, but we just did this life one. You literally would do the exact same thing we just did. All you would do is make items that have the thing called score items on there, right? Score item. The tag needs that. So you make a bunch of objects, make sure they got box colliders, and then we would just do player stats script dot, and it wouldn't be dot lives. We'd make another one called like dot score, right? And then we would kind of do the same thing we already did here, and then make sure we destroy it and stuff, and then we would just add to that score and so on and so forth. But that's basically it as far as the lives are concerned. So now we have at least a little bit of, something kind of working here.